Hello and welcome to Steve's Soft Drink Shack. On this second episode of the show, I thought we'd take a look at a classic soft drink, one that predates cola but is still available today. I'm talking about root beer. So what is root beer? Well, root beer was originally made using the root bark from the sassafras tree, hence the name. This tree can be found in the eastern United States and a small part of southwestern Ontario, making root beer a North American invention. Sarsaparilla, which tastes a lot like root beer, is actually made using the sarsaparilla vine, native to Mexico and Central America. Differentiating between root beer and sarsaparilla gets complicated when you realize a lot of the classic root beer recipes actually contain both. And the truth is, it's all theoretical anyway, because none of the commercial root beers that you can buy today contain either sassafras or sarsaparilla. That's because both contain a substance called safrole, which was banned by the US FDA as a food additive in the 1960s. That's because lab rats that were made to consume it were shown to get cancer and liver damage. Instead, today's root beers try to simulate that original taste, leaning into flavors like birch oil, wintergreen, licorice, and anise. If you had to ask me, I would think most people today strongly associate wintergreen with root beer. When someone tells me that this candy or dental hygiene product or whatever tastes like root beer, in reality, it usually just tastes like wintergreen. I think wintergreen is also the reason why many critics of root beer claim it tastes like toothpaste. Root beer has its roots in sassafras root teas consumed by Native Americans. In 1876, Philadelphia pharmacist Charles Elmer Hires would introduce his own root tea blend, first as a powder and then as a syrup for use in soda fountains. Hires would change the name from root tea to root beer in an attempt to appeal to Pennsylvania's beer-drinking coal miners. These are his thoughts, not mine. Hires would begin selling bottled root beer in 1893. Root beer would quickly become the most popular soft drink in America, eclipsed by cola only in the 1950s. So, why aren't I drinking a Hires root beer today? Well, that's because it doesn't exist. Its parent company, Keurig Dr. Pepper, stopped producing it. That's because they own competing brands in Canada and the United States. That is, Stewart's Root Beer here in Canada and A&W Root Beer in the US. I guess these sister brands were more successful than Hires, meaning Hires doesn't need to exist. Strangely, you could still find Hires root beer quite recently, pre-mixed with vodka at the LCBO. This was produced by Canada Dry Mott's, a Canadian subsidiary of Keurig Dr. Pepper. I went to my local LCBO today and they told me they haven't seen any of this stuff since January and that it's likely discontinued.
Since Hires is no longer available, I thought I'd instead look at another classic American root beer, Barq's. The Barq Brothers Bottling Company was started in the French Quarter of New Orleans in 1890 by brothers Gaston and Edward Barq. Their drink here, Barq's root beer, was actually originally marketed just as Barq's. They wanted to avoid the root beer name to avoid any potential legal troubles with the Hires Root Beer Company. In fact, the original Barq's wasn't even made with any sassafras. It is indeed a sarsaparilla. Now, most of my life, Barq's was marketed as a root beer, as an old-fashioned root beer. And in my eye, it is the quintessential root beer. When I think of root beer, I think of Barq's. What I have here is a Barq's made with cane sugar, rather than corn syrup or anything else like that. I just found this at my local corner store in a pack of 4. Right away, you can smell that wintergreen. That is absolutely the strongest component of the flavor here. It tastes wintergreen. Might taste a little bit of mint. And otherwise, if I had to tell you what I taste root beer. It has a distinct flavor, and this is it. I like Barq's. I think it's great. I have to say, I think this cane sugar one might not be as strongly carbonated as the usual Barq's. Barq's is sort of unique in that it is carbonated, or very strongly carbonated compared to most root beers. It's also usually caffeinated, whereas many root beers are not. Anyway, I'm quite fond of this. I think it's pretty good. I would have loved to check out Hires, but unfortunately, that just wasn't possible. Anyway, I'd like to thank everybody for checking out the Shack, old and new fans alike. I hope you like it. I hope you share it around. Have a good one.